Imagine standing on the highest mountain on Earth. Now imagine someone digging a hole in the ocean deeper than that mountain is tall. A place so deep that sunlight has never touched it. A place where the pressure is so intense it could crush a human body instantly. And yet, something is living there. Something that has evolved in total darkness. This is the story of the deepest place on Earth, a place scientists call the Mariana Trench, a place where every expedition uncovers creatures that look less like animals from Earth and more like something from another planet. Tonight, we descend nearly 11 kilometers below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, into a world of crushing pressure, alien life forms, and mysteries that science is still trying to understand. Because what lives down there might completely change the way we see life on our planet. The Mariana Trench lies in the western Pacific Ocean, just east of the Mariana Islands. At first glance, it doesn't look dramatic on a map. But beneath the waves lies a gigantic scar on Earth's crust. The trench stretches for more than 2,500 kilometers across the ocean floor. At its deepest point lies a place called Challenger Deep, and this is where things become almost unimaginable. The ocean here plunges to a depth of nearly 11,000 meters, about 6.8 miles below sea level. To understand how deep that is, if Mount Everest were dropped into the Mariana Trench, its peak would still be more than 2 kilometers underwater. It is the deepest natural location on Earth. But depth isn't the most terrifying part. The real challenge is pressure. At the bottom of the trench, the weight of the ocean above creates pressure more than 1,000 times greater than the atmosphere at sea level. That is roughly 8 tons of force on every square inch. To put that into perspective, imagine an elephant standing on a postage stamp. Now imagine thousands of elephants pressing down at once. Under those conditions, steel bends, glass shatters, and an unprotected human body would be crushed instantly. Which raises a terrifying question. If humans can barely survive there for minutes, how can anything live there at all?
For centuries, the trench remained completely unexplored. Scientists knew it existed, but reaching the bottom seemed impossible. That changed in 1960. 2 men climbed into a small submersible called the Trieste. Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy officer Don Walsh were about to attempt something no human had ever done before. They were going to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. As the submersible began descending, sunlight slowly disappeared. At around 200 meters, the last traces of daylight vanished. Below them was only darkness. The descent lasted nearly 5 hours. Outside the vessel, the pressure kept rising. Hundreds of atmospheres, 500 atmospheres, 900 atmospheres. Finally, the submersible touched the bottom, the deepest place on Earth. For a moment, sediment exploded into the water like an underwater dust storm. And then, something unexpected appeared in the lights. A small flatfish swam past the window. It was a shocking discovery because until that moment, scientists believed vertebrate life could not survive such extreme pressure. But here it was, living proof that life had adapted to one of the harshest environments on the planet. And that discovery changed everything. Scientists later gave this region a name, the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. It refers to ocean depths below 6,000 meters, where trenches dominate the seafloor. This environment is unlike anything on the surface. Temperatures hover just above freezing, the darkness is absolute, and food is incredibly scarce. Most of the creatures down here survive on something called marine snow,
tiny particles of organic matter drifting down from the surface, fragments of dead plankton, fish scales, waste, even microscopic dust. To creatures living in the trench, these falling particles are the equivalent of a slow-motion snowfall of food. But sometimes, something much larger sinks to the bottom, a dead whale. When that happens, the abyss erupts into life. Hundreds of creatures gather around the carcass, feeding for years. In the abyss, even death becomes a feast. The deeper scientists explore, the stranger the creatures become. One of the most common fish found in the Mariana Trench is the snailfish. At first glance, it looks fragile. Its body is almost translucent. Its skeleton is soft cartilage instead of hard bone. But this strange design is exactly what allows it to survive crushing pressure. Instead of resisting the pressure, its body simply adapts to it. Scientists have filmed snailfish living more than 8,000 meters deep, making them some of the deepest living fish ever recorded. Then there is the Dumbo octopus, named after the Disney elephant because of the ear-like fins on its head. It drifts through the dark water like a ghost, flapping its fins slowly as it searches for food on the seafloor. Unlike most octopuses, it does not hunt aggressively. Instead, it glides silently, picking up worms and crustaceans from the mud. Another terrifying creature is the anglerfish. Its most famous feature is the glowing lure that hangs above its mouth, a small light produced by bioluminescent bacteria. In the darkness of the deep ocean, that light is irresistible. Curious fish swim closer, and suddenly they are swallowed by jaws lined with razor-sharp teeth. These predators don't chase their prey. They wait, patiently, in the darkness. Not all trench creatures are small. Some grow surprisingly large. One example is the giant amphipod. These shrimp-like crustaceans look like something from a science fiction film. Some species grow more than 30 centimeters long. Gigantism is common in the deep sea. Scientists believe this happens because colder temperatures and slower metabolisms allow animals to grow larger and live longer. But the deeper researchers go, the more surprises they find. Recently, deep-sea submersibles discovered thousands of previously unknown worms and mollusks living at extreme depths, entire ecosystems thriving nearly 10 kilometers below the surface. These discoveries show that life is far more resilient than scientists once believed. But surviving in the trench requires extraordinary adaptations. First, there is no sunlight. Plants cannot grow, so the entire ecosystem depends on energy drifting down from the upper ocean. Second, many animals produce their own light. This ability is called bioluminescence. Tiny chemical reactions inside their bodies create glowing blue or green light. Some use it to attract prey, others use it to communicate, and some use it to camouflage themselves by matching the faint light above. In a world of permanent darkness, light becomes one of the most powerful survival tools.
Perhaps the most incredible challenge is pressure. At nearly 11 kilometers deep, every inch of a creature's body experiences thousands of pounds of force. To survive, trench animals have evolved remarkable biological tricks. Many have flexible skeletons or gelatinous bodies. Others have special molecules in their cells that protect proteins from being crushed. Some species have even lost their eyesight completely, because in total darkness, eyes serve no purpose. Instead, they rely on touch, vibrations, and chemical signals in the water. Life in the trench is not fast. It is slow, efficient, and incredibly specialized. For decades after the Trieste expedition, no human returned to the bottom. The technology simply didn't exist. But in 2012, filmmaker and explorer James Cameron made history. He descended alone in a specially designed submersible, reaching the bottom of Challenger Deep once again. He described the environment as an alien world. The seafloor looked like a vast desert of fine sediment.
silent, empty, and darker than night. Yet even there, life still existed. Tiny crustaceans scuttling across the mud, ghost-like sea cucumbers drifting across the seabed, proof that life had adapted to even the most hostile corners of our planet. Despite decades of exploration, scientists have only explored a tiny fraction of the Mariana Trench. In fact, more than 80% of the world's oceans remain unexplored. New robotic submarines are now descending deeper than ever before, and each expedition reveals something new: unknown species, strange ecosystems, and sometimes things that scientists cannot immediately explain. Every discovery reminds us of something incredible. Earth's oceans are still full of mysteries, and the deepest one of all lies hidden in the darkness of the Mariana Trench. Somewhere nearly 11 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a world of darkness and crushing pressure, life continues, silent, strange, and largely unknown. Creatures glide through the black water, lights flicker in the abyss, and the seafloor hides secrets that humanity has barely begun to uncover. The Mariana Trench is not just the deepest place on Earth. It is a reminder that our planet still holds worlds we have yet to discover, worlds that challenge our understanding of life itself. And somewhere in that darkness, there may still be creatures waiting to be found. If you enjoyed this journey into the deepest place on Earth, make sure to subscribe to Science Uncovered, because the next mystery might be even deeper and even stranger. The deep sea is not just another part of our planet. It is Earth's last true frontier, a silent, crushing, lightless world that feels more alien than Mars. We have mapped the surface of the moon in greater detail than the ocean floor beneath our own feet. And yet, down there, in that eternal darkness, giants rule. This phenomenon has a name: deep sea gigantism. In the freezing waters near Antarctica lives the colossal squid, heavier than a grand piano, armed with rotating hooks and eyes the size of dinner plates. Nearby drifts the seven-armed octopus, Halifron atlanticus, ghost-like and massive. The lion's mane jellyfish trails tentacles longer than a blue whale. Giant sea spiders stretch across the seabed like creatures pulled from nightmares. And in the Arctic depths, the ancient Greenland shark moves through time itself. But why? Why would life grow enormous in a place so hostile, so starved of light and warmth? At the surface, survival is speed. The blue whale became untouchable by becoming enormous, 190 tons of living gravity. Nothing hunts it because almost nothing can. But most creatures cannot rely on sheer size alone. In the sunlit waters, life is panic in motion. Swordfish slice through the sea like living missiles. Blue-tune tuna are built like torpedoes. Even flying fish erupt from the ocean, not to soar, but to escape. And beneath them all, the great white shark rises from the glare, turning sunlight into camouflage before striking. Up here, hesitation means death. But light only travels so far. As we descend into the twilight zone, the blue fades into gray and then into black. Hunting becomes nearly impossible. Vision fails, sound distorts, shadows deceive. So evolution builds monsters. The giant squid evolved the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, not to see sunlight, but to detect the faintest flicker of bioluminescence. For centuries, sailors believed they were myths. We only saw them when storms dragged their bodies ashore. Then, in 2004, we finally saw one alive, nearly 43 feet long, a living relic of legend. Deeper still lives the colossal squid of Antarctica, heavier, bulkier, armed with hooks that rotate like mechanical claws, a predator forged for pressure and patience. But as we sink farther, something changes. Speed disappears. Violence slows. In the Arctic depths, over 6,500 feet below the ice, swims the Greenland shark, a titan weighing over a ton, yet it drifts at less than 1 mile per hour. Its heart beats slowly, its metabolism barely whispers. It does not chase prey, it waits. When a whale dies and sinks, a whale fall, it becomes a banquet lasting years. The Greenland shark can survive on a single massive meal for astonishing stretches of time.
And here is the haunting part. Some of these sharks are nearly 400 years old. Alive today are individuals born before the Great Fire of London, before the Mayflower crossed the Atlantic. They are living history. Many of them are blind. A parasitic crustacean attaches to their eyes, slowly consuming the tissue. Yet they continue drifting through the dark, guided only by scent. Blind, ancient, unhurried. They have conquered time by slowing it down. In the open ocean, where there's no floor and nowhere to hide, life becomes illusion. The oarfish hangs vertically like a silver ribbon, inspiring sea serpent myths. Giant siphonophores stretch like drifting chains, not one creature, but thousands working as one. And still, we haven't reached the bottom. When we finally touch the seafloor, the drifting stops and the crawling begins. Giant isopods, pill bugs the size of small dogs, march across the mud. Japanese spider crabs extend legs spanning over 4 meters, moving like mechanical walkers in a forgotten factory of the deep. Sea pigs graze in herds. Tripod fish stand motionless for years, waiting for food to drift by. Why so large? Because in the deep sea, energy is everything. Small bodies burn fuel too quickly. They starve between meals. Large bodies act like slow-draining batteries. A giant squid weighing half a ton may burn shockingly few calories per day. They are not lazy, they are efficient. And in the polar seas, giantism reaches another level. Cold water holds more oxygen. According to Bergman's rule and the oxygen temperature hypothesis, this abundance removes biological limits on size. Antarctic sea spiders grow as wide as dinner plates. Some absorb oxygen directly through their legs. The Antarctic sun star can grow 50 arms, not 5, forming a living trap across the seafloor. Even the lion's mane jellyfish stretches tentacles longer than 100 feet. But here's what makes it unsettling. In freezing water, everything moves slowly. Water thickens, muscles stiffen. You would see a predator approaching long before it reached you, but you wouldn't be able to escape. Now imagine diving deeper into the abyss. At 13,000 feet, pressure would crush a human instantly. At 20,000 feet, it would flatten steel like paper. Yet life adapts. Creatures abandon rigid bones for soft, gelatinous bodies that cannot be compressed. Red pigmentation renders them invisible because red light never reaches these depths. The fangtooth fish carries teeth too large for its mouth. The gulper eel unhinges its jaw to swallow prey nearly its own size. The Dumbo octopus flaps ear-like fins in lonely silence. And then there is the big-fin squid, trailing impossibly long arms bent at eerie angles, hovering like something that was never meant to exist on Earth. At nearly 36,000 feet in the Challenger Deep of the Mariana Trench, pressure becomes almost unimaginable, yet the Mariana snailfish survives. Its secret lies in chemistry. Its cells are filled with TMAO, a molecule that stabilizes proteins against crushing pressure. It doesn't fight the environment, it becomes part of it. Down here, even giants exist. The amphipod Alicella gigantea grows to the size of a guinea pig, feeding on debris from the world above.
And at the trench floor, enormous single-celled organisms called xenophyophores spread across the sediment like alien carpets, absorbing heavy metals and thriving where almost nothing else can. Life does not just survive at the bottom of the world, it dominates it. But this ancient stability is breaking. Marine snow, once harmless organic debris, now falls as a blizzard of microplastics. The deep ocean is warming. Warm water holds less oxygen. The very condition that allowed giantism to evolve is disappearing. For creatures built for cold, oxygen-rich stability, warming is not an inconvenience, it is suffocation. The giants that survived crushing pressure for millions of years may not survive us. We often imagine the deep ocean as distant and untouchable, but our fingerprints are already there, settling quietly into trenches we have barely explored. We are the first generation to witness these titans in their true habitat, and we may be the last with the power to protect them. The deep sea is not empty, it is alive with patience, endurance, and ancient power, and it is watching. If this journey into the abyss changed how you see our planet, subscribe to Science Uncovered and join us as we continue exploring the hidden worlds beneath our feet. Tell me in the comments which deep-sea giant surprised you the most.